Hello. I want to create this video because I don't feel like I need to, but I feel like I want to try to explain classes in a more artistic way and less developer way because I see myself as a guy who develops and not like a software developer because I never like took any software developer classes or anything. I just learned from Alexander Richer. His classes are really good. In case you are interested, I recommend them. So I want to like explain this a little bit because I was talking with some friends and I feel like as a rigger you don't really need to know classes. But if you want to grow as an artist, you probably need because if you don't know them, you probably just use them but don't understand how to modify them. So I feel like it's something good, but something that you can live without knowing. And that's my personal opinion because of the studios where I have been and stuff. But if you go to higher studios or more Pythonic studios, it's going to be like different, obviously. It depends on each studio. But let's do it and let's learn something in a simple way, which is hard to explain, but in more like Maya oriented way because understanding oriented object oriented programming is always like create this human, create this whatever. And now it's like, how do I translate that to Maya? So this is my try. This is like my 10th time trying this tutorial. So if you have questions, please let me know. It's going to be probably my last trying. So I'm sorry if the video is not good. It's a complex topic to explain if you are not a pro in it because I use it a lot. I know how to modify them, whatever. It's just a long introduction. Sorry for the wasting 2 minutes of your life. But there we go. Also sorry for the Mac. I love the color purple. I changed the color on purpose, but I know looking at the Mac is ugly, but that's the computer that I have. I move countries, so I don't have my computer, and this is what I have. So enjoy seeing an ugly Mac. Uh, First of all, what we're going to be creating is a cube. So we're going to be using Maya to create a fancy Pythonic cube, which is not going to be great, but make it simple. Class, name of the whatever you want to create, always capital. That's the rule. So everybody understand that if it's capital is because it's more likely a class and not a variable or a function. So what you need to do is define a function. It's called method, function. People don't really care. If you want to be correct, you will call it method, but if you just are coding, call it function, whatever. You need to initialize it. So you need to just read this. And for now, just uh, see this and that's it. You run it and you run this and you will see that you have a class called cube. And congratulations, you have created your own class. Okay, every time you create a class, the way to execute that class is by creating an object. That is why it's called object-oriented programming and not class-oriented programming because it's creating objects. What is an object? It's a duplicate of the class with all its properties and methods, but in a variable. So let's say that variable, which is an object, you can do whatever is in the class. So let's call this red cube. Let's say we're going to be creating a red cube. So you just do this, this, whoop, and if you run this, I fucked up somewhere here because you need to put self. Okay, we run this, we check again. This is a class, and this is. And what is the fuck is self? Well, self is just something that you need to have because the way that I see it is self is the way of telling the class that this is going to be everywhere. If you want to have something that is not everywhere, you don't put self. But whenever you put self, it's like allowing the class to read it. So if you have like, for example, imagine you are in a room and in a room you have like parts that are with curtains. And if you put self, you remove the curtain so I can see that other room. And that's the way self works. So self is actually going to be the object. So if I run all this again and I run this, we can see now this is an object from cube. Okay? We can create as many objects as we want, and that is the fun part in classes because that's how they work. So I'm just going to have a name. So if I want to put a name, what I'm going to be doing is this name is only going to be visible for this, for the initialization. But as always, remember, I want to remove the curtain so everybody can see the attribute that I'm passing. So I'm going to be creating something called self.name. So everybody can see the name, and it's going to be equal to this name, okay? So far, not complex. If I run it, I'm going to get an error because I am missing a required positional argument because I didn't put the name. So I'm just going to be doing name is equal to, let's make a mistake on purpose. It's going to be blue. So if I run this red cube and I ask for help just to see if I can see the color in an easy way, you will see that I have it in here. I cannot see the name in the help. That's okay. You can always do red cube dot name, and that is how you see the color. So because we pass it like that and we put it in self, you can see it. For example, if you do this and you run this again and you look for the name, you will get an error because you don't have that attribute because you never put it the self, so I cannot see it. So that's the thing. Remember, self is just a coroutine, and this we're removing and putting the coroutine if we need to. So I fucked up. So red cube name is going to be blue. I can just do this and reassign it. It's that easy. That's why classes are like super fun because you can just create this, and now if I print this, oh fuck, print, I have changed the name. And there is one way of changing the name, just changing this like variable that is dot and the required thing. To be honest, I don't really know a lot of the names, like this is an attribute or a method or whatever, but I just call them and you will understand probably. So that's how it works in a way. You can also do another set of fancy ways. So let's do create another thing, and this is going to be like dev change name. So because I want this to be shared with everything, I'm going to be putting self, and what I'm going to be doing is self.name is now going to be, I'm going to put another variable in here that is going to be called new name. It's going to be equal to new name. So let's run this again. As you can see, if I print this in here, dot name is equal to this blue, and now I can do red cube dot change name, and I can put new name is equal to red. So if I run this and I print this, now we have red. Okay, so this is a way of manipulating stuff. You can manipulate from one method to another because you are assigning self again. So because it's short, you are like overriding it. And now let's create something that makes more sense in Maya, that is going to be def create cube. And what we're going to be doing, I don't need to put anything, just self, because I need it to be available for everything. And what I'm going to do is cmds.polycube, and name is going to be a cell.name. So if I do this, and I'm going to create it back on purpose so we can see it. I'm going to create it, so I have this object, right? I'm going to be doing a red cube dot create cube to create it. Ah, fuck, I have this blue instead of red. So what I can do is just, and obviously if I run this, like red cube dot change name, nothing is going to happen because this is, I need to put new name, going to be equal to red. This obviously is not going to happen anything because I haven't assigned anything here. So what I'm going to be doing is just cmds.rename, where I can put, okay, the rename, and I'm going to be putting a new name. I can just do self.name because I already changed it in here. So if I do this, well, I need to run it again. I'm not going to create a double, I'm just going to change it, and as you can see, it changed, right? What happened? Now, if I run this, I don't create the cube, but I want to change the name, it's going to give me an error because I never created the cube. So what I can do is in the initialization, I can check if the cube exists. So I will be doing cube underscore exists is going to be equal. We can do true, for example. Let's do false. And whenever we create the cube, we just do self dot cube exists. I made a mistake in here. I made also another mistake in here. This needs to be self, so everybody can see it. And in here, you can do self is equal to true. So whenever we check, it's going to work, right? And before renaming, I just want to do if self dot cube exists, and then I rename it, because if it doesn't exist, whatever, right? So initialize the object, and now try to change the name. Oh, I fucked up in one name. Uppercase. Let's do it again. And if I want to change the name, it's only going to change the name in the cube. Like if I run red cube dot name, this is going to be red, but doesn't exist. And if I create the cube now, it's going to create it with the good name because we already changed it. So that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it without like this, I mean, we can improve this by, for example, doing something more dynamic, because I'm assuming that the cube doesn't exist. So if I want to change the name now to, let's say, red2, it's not going to change it because we never check if that exists before, like, if we didn't run this function. So what I'm going to do is create a new method called def cube exists, and just like that, and self because it's going to be short. And what I'm going to be doing is if cmds obj exists is going to be self.name, what I'm checking, self.cube exists, I made the same mistake, it's equal to true, else this is going to be equal to false. So I have a way to dynamically change this. I just need to run this whenever I initialize the class, and let's run the class first, initialize it. I don't need to create it because it already existed. I can actually check if it's already existing, and if I check the name, I need to initialize it with red because it's checking the red cube now because we are correct, and we're going to probably change the name. Why it's not working? Let's see. Cube exists equal to true. It's going to use some prints in here just to check. Oh, I can actually do this outside of the loop. Print. Let's run this. It's checking if the cube exists. Now I just want to change name. Itself. Yes, it should be changing the name to cube2. Why it's not working? It's because I'm changing self.name, I think, first. Let's see. Let's change side. It's because of that. I think it's because of that. I'm not really sure, to be honest. You probably see it. You usually can see it when I'm making a mistake. It's because I'm stupid. I just need to do self.name, comma, new name. That's it. Because I'm changing the name of nothing to nothing. And what? This always happens when you record. And it's probably really easy, but when you talk, it's going to be harder. Oh, let's go again. It is not recognizing that the cube exists because I'm not changing cube exist. I'm changing cube exist. Cube exist. La, la, la. I don't know. Well, trust me, it works. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I have 15 minutes so far, so I'm not going to spend time on this. I'm sorry if you know how to fix it or what did I did wrong, please let me know in the comments. Uh, so this is like a quick example of how to connect everything and why self is important. And as you can do now, we can create blue cube just by doing this. And this is going to be the blue, and we can do all the same things like this. Oh. So I initialize the object, and then I create the cube, and I have another cube. And this blue cube is the object that is the same, using the same kind of thing. So the idea of classes is that you don't need to copy paste the code because you already have one code that is able to create a lot of things. I will say classes is useful when you need to have a lot of things that interconnect with each other. So for example, in an auto rig, usually people create like a base module of a class and then they start improving it. So they can have like an arm, and the arm is going to be a class. So the arm, you can have like the IK controllers in a self variable, the FK controllers in a self variables, all the controllers, all the bind joints, all the twist joints, and everything can be like in this. So your imaginary can be thinking like, okay, you can create the left arm. So I have left arm dot IK controller. So it can be with whatever name you want in whatever Maya is in, that if you initialize the object, that thing can recognize the dot IKArm, dot FKArm, dot move. So it's going to move everything or something like that. That is the power of classes, that you can create the stuff and have these like fancy things that you can do to call them, initialize them, modify them, and that kind of stuff. And I asked ChatGPT just to create me something so we can like read it and try to understand what it's doing as a last part of the video. If you feel like you are boring or whatever, uh, I understand that coding is boring, and most with the mistake that I made that I have no idea, I will probably rewatch it and be like, ah, fuck, it's because of that. So, first of all, we initialize Maya commands. This is a way of doing it. Then we create a class called cube, the same idea. We're going to be initializing it, and because we share it, it's going to be self. The name is going to be mandatory, and if you don't put it, it's going to be assigning a random name that is not a random name, a specific name that is going to be my cube, and the size is going to be 1. So as the same, we want these attributes to be shared between everything, so we just create a attribute in here, a property I think it's called, and that property is going to be the name is going to be equal to this name, this size is going to be equal to this size, the position we're creating it in the origin apparently, and I guess this is the object in Maya, probably. It's a little cube that I don't understand. So the first thing is creating the cube. We're only doing self because we need to share it with the object. And if it doesn't exist, it's doing something similar, that checking if the object exists. And if that, it's going to give you a warning and return, so nothing of this will execute. So self.cube is going to be equal to polycube. This is created this way, so because when you create this, usually you get like the transform and the shape. So you're assigning the transform this and this to the shape, so it's like an internal variable. Like when you use this kind of variables, usually they meant that they are not meant to be shared with the public or the user. It's more like an internal and only for development. So this is like the same kind of thing. It's just like managing trash, and it's going to be moving it to the vector of the position. So this is going to be this vector, and it's going to be moving the cube that we just created, that is this, okay? And this is this same cube, okay? Then it's just going to do a print. Then we have a rename that is going to be short. It's going to be doing the new name, and if we haven't created the cube, it's not going to run, and if the object doesn't exist, it's not going to run. Then we're going to be changing the name, this name, to the new name, and then it's going to be doing the rename. I did the same thing in the other one, I don't know what I fucked up, but it's the same thing. And then just a random print, then a resize, so you can put the new size, that is probably going to be a vector, ideally, because X, Y, and Z. So if the code doesn't exist again and it's not in Maya, it's not going to do anything, and then it's just going to do a lot of set-driven keys. The move is also going to be the same, and at the end, the delete. So also, if the cube doesn't exist and doesn't exist in Maya, it's not going to delete it. Else, it's going to delete it. And that's why self is important, because if this one doesn't have self, we haven't specified anything called cube inside this method. So it's going to error because Python doesn't know what cube means. But when you put self, it's going to be like, oh, this means that it's shared between the class. And that is my as long tutorial on classes in an ugly Mac, but purple. So I hope you like it. I hope you understand. I know explaining this is hard. I really recommend Alexander Richard tutorials because the guy is like a software developer, a good one, not like me that is just a guy that knows how to code. And uh, that's it. If you have questions, let me know. I try to look at the comments. I never do, but people also never comment, so that's why I never check them. So have a good one and happy whatever day it is. Bye.